Aliens read our HR manuals and thought we were weak. Big mistake. The Galactic Secretariat's central archive smelled like ozone and bureaucratic anxiety. Ambassador Kara Malik stood before the holographic display, watching her species' official classification shimmer in translucent amber. Humanity, conflict-averse. Handle with care. She wanted to laugh or scream, maybe both. This is a joke, right? Colonel Thomas Ryback leaned against the crystalline wall, arms crossed, his weathered face arranged in that particular expression of military patience that preceded something deeply sarcastic. They think we're fragile. Dr. Imani Akafer adjusted her glasses, scrolling through the supporting documentation on her tablet. Not fragile, conflict-averse. They analyzed our media corporate HR training videos, conflict resolution seminars, peace studies curricula. They concluded we avoid confrontation at all costs. She looked up, dark eyes gleaming with anthropological fascination. It's actually a brilliant misread. They saw the scaffolding and missed the building. Kara turned from the display, her diplomatic composure settling over her like armor. 20 years of negotiation tables had taught her to read rooms, and this room, this entire orbital station, reeked of condescension wrapped in velvet concern. The Velori who'd processed Earth's application had filed humanity under species requiring protective oversight. Like children. Like pets. How long until they realize their mistake? Ryback asked. Depends. Kara's voice was silk over steel. How long until someone tests us? The answer came faster than expected. First Registrar Lyof de Veth rippled with what Kara had learned to recognize as Velori discomfort. A subtle shift in the aqueous shimmer of their translucent skin, like light through disturbed water. They floated in their mobility sphere, tentacles gesturing in the fluid medium that kept them alive in the station's oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Ambassador Malik, we have assigned you a suitable case. Lyofta's translator rendered their voice as apologetically bureaucratic. A minor piracy dispute, low stakes. We thought it appropriate for your species' first adjudication. Kara accepted the data crystal without comment. Beside her, Junior Attaché Silk Assur with iridescent feathers and enormous eyes watched with barely concealed curiosity. The avian had been assigned to shadow the timid species, a role Silk clearly found both boring and bewildering. Back in their assigned quarters, Ryback cracked the case file open and whistled low. Well, shit. Eloquent as always, Colonel. But Kara was already reading, her mind shifting into the cold, analytical mode that had earned her the nickname Ice Malik in the diplomatic corps. Keth flagged vessels, 3 raids on Sir merchant convoys, minimal casualties but significant cargo loss. Minimal casualties because the Sir don't fight back, Ryback said. They're harmony-obsessed, perfect targets. Imani leaned over his shoulder, her fingers already dancing across her own tablet, pulling up cultural profiles. The Keth are honor-bound militarists, hierarchical. They respect strength and despise weakness. If they're hitting Sir ships, they're testing boundaries, Kara finished, seeing what they can get away with. And the Secretariat gave this to us because they think we'll roll over too. Ryback's grin was sharp as broken glass. They want us to negotiate some face-saving compromise that lets the Keth keep raiding. Kara set down the crystal. Outside their viewport, the Secretariat station rotated slowly, a massive ring of diplomatic real estate where 1,000 species pretended civilization meant the absence of conflict. They were wrong. Civilization meant conflict with rules, conflict with referees, conflict that didn't burn worlds. Set up a public hearing, she said. Full transparency. I want every delegation watching. Silk's feathers ruffled in alarm. Ambassador, that is. Highly irregular. These matters are typically resolved through quiet mediation. I'm aware. Kara's smile was pleasant and absolutely terrifying. Do it anyway. The hearing chamber was designed for discretion, soft lighting, acoustic dampening, comfortable seating arranged in intimate clusters. Kara had them reconfigure it. Harsh lights, open floor plan, gallery seating for observers. By the time the Keth delegation arrived, half the Secretariat's diplomatic corps had filed in to watch the fragile humans handle their first case. Admiral Thren got entered like a walking tank. The Keth were armored by nature, their exoskeletons gleaming with ceremonial etchings that denoted rank and battle honors. Thren's carapace bore the scars of a dozen campaigns. He looked at Kara the way a predator looks at prey. She looked back the way a judoka looks at an opponent, assessing balance, leverage, commitment. "Ambassador," Thren's voice rumbled through his translator, "I understand you wish to discuss the unfortunate incidents involving Sir vessels." "I wish to discuss piracy," Kara corrected, her tone conversational. "Specifically, false flag operations conducted by Keth military assets disguised as independent raiders." The chamber went silent. Thren's mandibles clicked amusement or threat. Kara wasn't sure. "That is a serious accusation." "Yes," Kara activated the holographic display, "which is why I'm making it publicly with evidence." What followed was a masterclass in transparent cross-examination. Kara walked the chamber through shipping manifests, trajectory analyses, and communications intercepts. She highlighted the raiders' tactical patterns, too disciplined for pirates, too coordinated for opportunists. She showed how the stolen cargo had ended up in Keth military supply chains. She did it all calmly, methodically, without accusation in her tone. Just facts, just evidence, just the patient, relentless construction of an airtight case. Ryback watched from the gallery, his expression carefully neutral, but Kara caught the slight nod. "Good kill." Thren's posture shifted, not quite defensive but no longer predatory. "These are circumstantial." "They're actionable," Kara interrupted. "Under Secretariat law, I can request a formal investigation. That investigation will take months. It will be expensive. It will be embarrassing." She paused. "Or you can acknowledge the problem, return the stolen goods, and we can discuss appropriate reparations." "You would threaten the Keth Dominion." Thren's voice dropped to a dangerous register. "I'm not threatening anyone, Admiral." Kara's smile was sharp. "I'm offering you a choice. Conflict doesn't have to be catastrophic, it just has to be clear." For a long moment Thren stared at her. Then slowly, his mandibles spread in what the Keth considered a smile. "You are not what your file suggests, Ambassador Malik." "No," Kara agreed, "we're really not." The settlement took 3 hours to hammer out. The Keth returned the cargo, paid reparations, and agreed to joint anti-piracy patrols. Thren left the chamber with his honor intact and a new wariness in his eyes. Lyof de Veth found Kara in the observation lounge afterward, nursing a coffee that tasted like burnt regret. "That was unexpected," the Valori said carefully. "Was it?" Kara didn't look up from her cup. "You gave us a test case. We passed. You were aggressive, confrontational." "I was clear." Kara finally met Lyofta's gaze. "Registrar, can I ask you something? When you classified humanity as conflict-averse, what did you think that meant?" Lyofta's tentacles rippled. "That you avoid conflict. That confrontation distresses you." "We don't avoid conflict," Kara said. "We domesticate it. We turn it into courtrooms and competitive sports and parliamentary debate. We practice with it until it obeys rules. We're not afraid of conflict, Registrar. We're good at it." Before Lyofta could respond, Ryback appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. "We've got a problem." Kara was on her feet instantly. "What kind?" "The kind where I ran a red team exercise on Secretariat defensive postures and found a hole big enough to fly a battle group through." He pulled up a tactical display. "The Bracton Gate. It's a strategic worm gate junction, lightly defended, and according to my models, the Keth could seize it in under 72 hours if they moved now." Why would they? Kara stopped, looked at the display, looked at Ryback. The hearing. The hearing, Ryback confirmed. We just showed Thren that humans don't roll over. Now he's going to test whether the Secretariat does. Imani appeared behind him, tablet in hand, her face tight with urgency. I've been monitoring Keth military communications. There's increased chatter around their border fleets. They're mobilizing. Kara felt the familiar cold clarity settle over her, the moment when the negotiation ended and the real work began. She turned to Lyofta. Registrar, I need to speak to the Security Council. Now. Ambassador, I don't think. Registrar, Kara's voice was quiet, but it cut through Lyofta's objection like a blade. In 72 hours, the Keth are going to seize the Bracton Gate. They're going to do it because they think the Secretariat is conflict-averse. They think you'll negotiate rather than fight. They think you're fragile. She stepped closer. Are they right? Lyofta's entire body shimmered with distress. We are a peacekeeping organization. Peace isn't the absence of conflict, Kara said. It's the product of well-managed conflict. And right now, you need someone who knows how to manage it. Silk, who had been watching from the corner with wide, unblinking eyes, suddenly spoke up. I will arrange the meeting. Kara glanced at the young sir. Thank you, attaché. As they left the lounge, Ryback fell into step beside her. You know they're going to fight you on this. I know. You know we might actually have to fight. I know that too. Good, Ryback's grin was wolfish. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Behind them, Imani was already pulling up conflict models, her mind racing through game theory and escalation ladders. She muttered to herself, a habit from years of solo research. Expressive conflict venting, instrumental conflict goal-oriented, existential conflict survival. The Keth think this is instrumental. We need to keep it that way. Kara heard her and nodded. The trick wasn't avoiding the fight. The trick was making sure everyone understood what kind of fight it was and what it would cost. The Secretariat was about to learn what humanity had known for millennia. Peace wasn't a gift. It was a negotiation, and negotiations required leverage. Time to show them what leverage looked like. The Security Council chamber was a cathedral of diplomatic architecture, soaring ceilings, ambient lighting designed to soothe, seating arranged in concentric circles to emphasize equality. Kara hated it on sight. It was a room designed to avoid decisions. She stood in the center, Ryback and Imani flanking her, while 24 species representatives watched with varying degrees of skepticism. Ambassador Malik, the council chair, a Velori elder named Sethais, spoke with the careful neutrality of someone who'd spent centuries avoiding commitment. You have requested this emergency session to discuss a theoretical threat. Not theoretical. Ryback activated the tactical display, and suddenly the chamber was filled with ship movements, probability matrices, and attack vectors. Actual. The Keth are positioning assets for a lightning strike on the Bracton Gate. Our models give them a 94% success probability if they move within the next 60 hours. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A Sur delegate's feathers flattened in distress. A Velori representative's skin clouded with anxiety. These are projections, Sethais said. Possibilities. The Keth have made no hostile declarations. They won't, Kara interrupted. They'll just move. And by the time you've convened another committee to discuss appropriate responses, they'll control the most strategic transit point in this sector. You are suggesting military action. A delegate from the Harmonious Collective, a species that had literally evolved past violence, sounded horrified. I'm suggesting deterrence, Kara said. There's a difference. Imani stepped forward, her voice carrying the calm authority of academic expertise. Council members, humanity has spent 10,000 years studying conflict. We've categorized it, ritualized it, and institutionalized it. We've learned that conflict isn't a failure of civilization. It's a tool of civilization. The question isn't whether conflict exists. The question is whether you manage it or let it manage you. Pretty words, Thren's voice boomed from the gallery entrance. The Keth admiral strode into the chamber uninvited, his carapace gleaming. But words are wind, Doctor. The Bracton Gate is poorly defended. It invites seizure. If the Secretariat cannot hold its strategic assets, perhaps it does not deserve them. The chamber erupted in shocked protests. Thren ignored them, his eyes fixed on Kara. You showed teeth in the hearing, Ambassador, but teeth without bite are just for show. Kara met his gaze steadily. Admiral, I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. We don't want to fight you. Fighting is expensive, unpredictable, and messy. But she let the word hang. We're very, very good at it. And if you seize that gate, you'll find out exactly how good. Threats, Thren's mandibles clicked. From the conflict-averse species. Clarity, Kara corrected. We're not conflict-averse, Admiral. We're conflict-competent. There's a difference, and you're about to learn it. Ryback pulled up another display, this one showing Earth's mobilization capacity, response times, and force projection capabilities. We've already dispatched a rapid response group. They'll arrive at the Bracton Gate in 36 hours. If you move on that gate, you'll face human auxiliaries operating under Secretariat authority. We won't fire first, but we will fire back, and we will make it expensive. The chamber fell silent. Sethi's skin had gone nearly opaque with stress. Ambassador, you cannot unilaterally commit forces. I'm not, Kara said. I'm advising you to commit forces, with human strategic support, unless you'd prefer to negotiate the gate's return after the Keth take it. Thren laughed, a harsh, grinding sound. You are bold, human, I respect that, but respect does not stop fleets. No, Kara agreed, but clear rules of engagement do, transparent escalation ladders do, credible deterrence does. She turned back to the council. You have a choice. You can treat this as a crisis to be avoided or as a conflict to be managed. One approach loses you the gate, the other keeps it. Sethi's looked around the chamber, reading the fear and uncertainty in every delegate's posture. Finally, reluctantly, what do you propose? Kara allowed herself a small smile. Let me show you how humans do conflict. Silk found Kara later in the observation deck, watching the stars wheel past. The young sir approached hesitantly, feathers rustling with confusion. Ambassador, I do not understand. What don't you understand at HFY? You and Colonel Ryback, earlier in the briefing room you argued, loudly I thought you were, fighting. Kara smiled, we were. But then you left together, you were laughing. Yes. Silk's head tilted, avian confusion manifest. How can you fight and then be friends? Because the fight wasn't personal, Kara explained. It was instrumental. Ryback thought we should show more force. I thought we should emphasize diplomatic off-ramps. We argued, tested each other's logic and came out with a better plan. That's domesticated conflict at HFY. We practice it so much it becomes a tool instead of a threat. But conflict causes harm. Unmanaged conflict causes harm, Kara corrected. Managed conflict causes progress. Every human institution, our courts, our markets, our democracies, they're all ritualized conflict. We argue in courtrooms instead of dueling in streets. We compete in markets instead of raiding each other's warehouses. We debate in parliaments instead of waging civil wars. We took conflict and made it ours. Silk was quiet for a long moment. Then, the Keth will not back down easily. No, Kara agreed. They won't, but they will back down, because we're going to show them something they've never seen before, humans who aren't afraid of conflict, but who aren't controlled by it either. And if they attack anyway? Kara's expression hardened. Then we'll show them the other thing we're good at. Silk didn't ask what that was. The young sir was beginning to understand. Humans weren't fragile. They were something far more dangerous. They were ready. The Bracton Gate hung in space like a god's wedding ring, a massive torus of exotic matter that bent spacetime into a shortcut across 200 light-years. Freighters queued at the approach vectors, their transponders blinking patient identification. It looked peaceful, orderly, vulnerable. Colonel Thomas Rybeck hated it on sight. "Defensive posture is a joke," he muttered, studying the tactical display in the Human Auxiliary Command Center, a repurposed cargo hauler that smelled like recycled air and military coffee. 2 patrol corvettes, a sensor grid with gaps you could fly a dreadnought through, and a station garrison that's never fired a shot in anger. "That's the point," said Commander Sarah Chen, the ranking officer of Earth's Rapid Response Group. She was compact, efficient, and had the kind of calm that came from actually being shot at. "The Secretariat doesn't believe in military deterrence. They think it's provocative." "They're about to learn a hard lesson about what's actually provocative." Ryback pulled up the wargame results he'd run during the 36-hour transit. If the Keth move with a standard battle group, 3 cruisers, escort screen, assault shuttles, they can take the station in 4 hours. 6, if the defenders actually fight back, which they won't. "So we make them fight back." Chen zoomed in on the gate's approach vectors. "What's your plan?" Ryback grinned. It wasn't a nice grin. "We make this gate expensive to take and embarrassing to hold. Porcupine defense, lots of small, sharp quills that make grabbing us hurt like hell." Over the next 12 hours, Human auxiliaries transformed the Bracton Gate from a soft target into a tactical nightmare. They seeded the approach vectors with drone minelets, not enough to stop a determined assault, but enough to force attackers into predictable channels. They positioned decoy freighters with sensor profiles that mimicked military vessels. They established overlapping fields of fire and rehearsed rapid response protocols with the bewildered Secretariat garrison. Most importantly, they made it all visible, transparent. Every defensive measure was broadcast on open channels, every capability demonstrated in plain sight. "You're showing them our hand," Chen observed. "I'm showing them the cost of playing," Ryback corrected. "Deterrence only works if the other guy knows what he's facing." Aboard the Keth battle cruiser Talon of Dominance, Admiral Thren Gott studied the same tactical displays with growing irritation. "The humans have fortified the gate," his tactical officer reported. "Minelet fields, decoy vessels, enhanced sensor coverage. Our assault plan requires revision." Thren's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The humans had moved faster than he'd expected, and they'd done it openly, without the usual Secretariat hand-wringing about escalation and proportional response. It was almost refreshing. "Casualties?" he asked. "Projected losses increase by 40% if we proceed with the original plan. We can adapt, but it will take time and expose our approach." Thren considered. The Keth respected strength, but they weren't stupid. A costly victory was still a victory, but an expensive victory invited challenges from rivals back home. The humans had made the gate expensive. But not expensive enough. "Proceed with the probe," he ordered. "Let's see if their teeth are as sharp as their display suggests." The probe came at 400 station time. A single Keth destroyer with a squadron of fast-attack craft, burning hard toward the gate on a trajectory that could be either aggressive or merely careless. Kara watched from the station's command center, Imani beside her, both of them running on coffee and adrenaline. Ryback was on the auxiliary command channel, his voice calm and clinical. "Hostile vector confirmed. Weapons hot but not locked. This is a probe. They're testing response time and rules of engagement." "Don't fire first," Kara said into the command channel, "but make it clear we're ready to fire back." What followed was a carefully choreographed dance of deterrence. Human auxiliaries maneuvered to intercept, their weapons systems active and tracking. They broadcast warnings on open channels, clear, professional, utterly calm. They didn't threaten. They simply stated facts. "You are approaching a defended position. Alter course or face engagement." The Keth destroyer kept coming. At 50,000 kilometers, human point defense systems achieved lock. At 40,000, the auxiliary cruiser Resolute moved to block the approach vector, its railguns trained on the destroyer's drive section. At 30,000 kilometers, the Keth destroyer fired. Not at the humans, at a decoy freighter. The shot was precise, calculated to destroy the target without threatening the station. A test, a provocation. Return fire, Kara ordered. Proportional, disable, don't destroy. The Resolute's railgun spoke once, a single kinetic round that punched through the destroyer's shield generator and left it tumbling, powerless but intact. The fast attack craft scattered, their pilots suddenly aware they were facing something that shot back. The entire engagement lasted 90 seconds. Ryback's voice came through, satisfied. Hostile force withdrawing, no casualties on either side. They got the message. But Kara was watching the tactical display, her mind racing through implications. They're not done. That was reconnaissance. They're learning our response patterns. Let them learn, Imani said quietly. She'd been running conflict models throughout the engagement, her tablet filled with game theory matrices. This is instrumental conflict, goal-oriented. They want the gate, but they don't want a war. Every engagement teaches them the cost. Eventually, the cost exceeds the value. Unless they decide the value is worth it, Kara countered. Imani met her eyes. Then we make sure they understand what worth it actually means. The Security Council convened again, this time in emergency session. The mood had shifted from skeptical to panicked. The Keth fired on Secretariat assets. A Sir Delegate's voice was shrill with distress. This is an act of war. It's an act of probing, Kara corrected. They're testing boundaries. If we overreact, we give them justification for escalation. If we underreact, we invite more probes. What do you suggest? Sethais asked, and Kara noted the shift the Valori was asking, not dismissing. We establish clear rules of engagement, Ryback said, pulling up a document that he and Chen had drafted during the transit. Transparent escalation ladders. If the Keth do X, we respond with Y, no ambiguity. No surprises. They know exactly what each action costs. You're proposing to formalize conflict. A harmonious collective delegate sounded appalled. We're proposing to manage it, Imani said. Right now, the Keth are operating in uncertainty. They don't know where our red lines are, so they're testing. Every test risks miscalculation. Miscalculation risks actual war. Clear rules prevent miscalculation. This is madness, the collective delegate insisted. We should be negotiating, not preparing for battle. We're doing both, Kara said. That's the point. Negotiation without credible deterrence is just begging. Deterrence without negotiation is just waiting for war. You need both. Thren's voice cut through the debate like a blade. He'd been granted observer status, a courtesy that Kara suspected he was about to abuse. The human speaks truth, the Admiral said, and the chamber fell silent. The Keth respect strength. You show weakness, we take what we want. You show strength without wisdom, we fight until one side breaks, but strength with clear boundaries. His mandibles spread in that unsettling smile. That we can work with. Are you saying you'll respect our defensive posture? Sethais asked carefully. I'm saying we'll respect clear rules, Thren corrected. If you tell us the cost of taking the gate, we can decide if it's worth paying. Right now, we don't know the cost, so we test, and testing is dangerous for everyone. Kara felt a flicker of respect for the Keth Admiral. He was a warrior, but he wasn't a fool. He understood the game. Then let's establish the cost, she said, publicly, transparently. No bluffs, no posturing, just clear consequences for clear actions. And if we decide the cost is acceptable, Thren asked. Then we pay it together, Kara said, but at least we'll both know what we're buying. The rules of engagement document took 6 hours to draft and another 12 to ratify. It was unprecedented. A formal framework for managed conflict, complete with escalation thresholds, response protocols, and face-saving off-ramps. The Keth could approach the gate, but not within 100,000 kilometers without prior notification. They could conduct military exercises, but not within the gate's defensive perimeter. Any weapons discharge within 500,000 kilometers would be met with proportional response. Any attempt to seize the station would be met with full defensive action, including lethal force. In exchange, the Secretariat agreed to joint oversight of the gate, with Keth observers granted access to verify that it wasn't being used to stage military operations against the Dominion. It was compromise, it was clarity, it was conflict with rules. Silk found Kara after the ratification, the young sir's feathers ruffled with confusion and something that might have been awe. "You made war into bureaucracy," Silk said. Kara laughed, a genuine, exhausted sound. "We made war into a negotiation. There's a difference. Bureaucracy is about avoiding decisions. This is about making decisions clear." But the Keth could still attack. "Yes," Kara agreed. "But now they know exactly what it will cost them, and we know exactly what we're defending. That's not peace at HFY. But it's not war either. It's the space in between where most of civilization actually lives." Silk was quiet for a moment. Then, "I think I am beginning to understand why your species survived." "We didn't just survive," Kara said softly. "We thrived, because we learned that conflict isn't the opposite of civilization. It's the engine of civilization. You just have to keep your hands on the wheel." The Keth didn't attack that night, or the next. The battle group remained at the edge of the defensive perimeter, a visible presence that reminded everyone the crisis wasn't over. But it wasn't escalating either. Ryback found Kara in the observation deck, watching the Keth ships through the viewport. "They're going to move eventually," he said. "This is just a pause." "I know," Kara said, "but pauses matter. Every hour they don't attack is an hour for cooler heads to prevail." "You sound like a diplomat." "I am a diplomat." "You're also a judoka," Ryback said. "You know that sometimes you have to throw someone to make them stop pushing." Kara smiled. "And you know that the best throw is the one you don't have to make because your opponent sees it coming." "Deterrence through candor," Ryback said. "I like it, might make it my doctrine." "Too late, I'm putting it in my report." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars and the distant ships and the fragile peace they'd built from clarity and credible threats. Then Imani's voice crackled over the comm. "We've got a problem." Kara and Ryback exchanged glances and moved as one. The crisis wasn't over. It was just getting started. The tactical display showed what Imani had spotted. A second Keth battle group, larger than the first, moving toward the gate from a different vector. Not a probe, not a test. An assault force. "ETA?" Kara asked, her voice cold and calm. 18 hours, Chen reported. 3 cruisers, 2 destroyer squadrons, and a carrier with assault shuttles. They're not hiding it broadcasting on open channels, full military honors. This is a formal challenge. Ryback studied the formation, his mind already running scenarios. "We can't stop that with what we have, not without taking heavy casualties." "Then we don't stop it," Kara said. "We make it too expensive to be worth taking." "How?" Chen asked. Kara turned to Imani. "You said this was instrumental conflict, goal-oriented. What's their goal?" "Control of the gate," Imani said immediately. "Strategic positioning, prestige." "And what do they lose if they take it by force?" Imani's eyes widened. "Legitimacy. If they seize it in violation of the rules of engagement, they're not strong, they're lawless. Other species will see them as a threat, not a power." "So we make the cost political, not just military," Kara said. She turned to Ryback. "Can we hold long enough to make this ugly?" "Define hold." Long enough for every species in the Secretariat to watch the Keth break their word and attack a defended position. Long enough to make this a PR disaster. Ryback's grin was sharp and feral. Yeah, we can do that. Then let's show them what conflict-competent actually means. The broadcast went out on every channel, every frequency, every diplomatic network in the Secretariat. Not encrypted, not private, utterly, deliberately public. Ambassador Kara Malik stood before the camera, her expression calm, her voice steady. Behind her, the tactical display showed the approaching Keth battle group in stark, undeniable detail. This is Ambassador Kara Malik of United Earth, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Secretariat Defense Council. 18 hours ago, Admiral Thren God of the Keth Dominion committed a second battle group to seize the Bracton Gate by force. This action violates the rules of engagement ratified by this council and agreed to by Keth observers. She paused, letting the words settle. Humanity does not want war. War is expensive, unpredictable, and wasteful, but we are not afraid of war. We have spent 10,000 years learning to manage conflict, and we are very, very good at it. Another pause. Kara's eyes were ice. Admiral Thren, you are approaching a defended position. If you proceed, you will face human auxiliaries operating under Secretariat authority. We will not fire first, but we will fire back, and we will make every meter you advance cost more than it's worth. She leaned forward slightly, and her voice dropped to something colder than vacuum. This is not a bluff. This is a promise. You want the gate, come and take it, but understand you won't be fighting a conflict-averse species. You'll be fighting a conflict-competent one, and we will make you pay for every second you hold what you've stolen. The broadcast ended. The Secretariat exploded. You just declared war. Sethai's skin had gone completely opaque with stress, without council authorization, without. I declared deterrence, Kara interrupted. There's a difference, and I did it publicly so that every species in this Secretariat knows exactly what's at stake. The Keth will see this as a challenge. Good, Ryback said from his position at the tactical display. Because it is. We're challenging them to decide if their honor is worth the cost. Lyofta-Veth rippled into the command center, their mobility sphere humming with agitation. Ambassador, the Keth delegation is demanding an immediate audience. They are extremely displeased. I imagine they are, Kara said. Send them in. Thren entered like a storm front, his carapace practically vibrating with fury. You dare. I dare to be clear, Kara said, cutting him off. You're moving a battle group against a defended position. That's an act of war. I'm telling you what war with humanity looks like. Would you prefer I'd kept it secret? You have no authority to commit Earth forces to. I have every authority, Kara said. Earth signed mutual defense agreements with the Secretariat. You're attacking Secretariat assets. We're defending them. It's very simple. There is nothing simple about this. Thren's mandibles clashed. You are forcing my hand. No, Kara said quietly. I'm showing you your hand. You have 3 choices, Admiral. 1. Withdraw your battle group and negotiate access to the gate through proper channels. 2. Proceed with your assault and face human resistance, which will be costly, public, and ultimately unsuccessful. 3. Propose a limited engagement, a formal duel with clear stakes and clear outcomes. The command center went silent. Thren stared at her. A duel. Your culture values honor through combat, Imani said, stepping forward. Ours values conflict with rules. A limited engagement satisfies both. You get your chance to prove Keth's strength. We get to demonstrate human resolve. And nobody has to die in a pointless escalation. What stakes? Thren asked carefully. If you win, you get observer status at the gate and priority transit for Keth vessels, Kara said. If we win, you withdraw your battle group and accept joint oversight. Either way, the gate stays under Secretariat control, and both sides walk away with their honor intact. Thren was quiet for a long moment. Then, what form would this duel take? Ship-to-ship engagement, Ryback said. Single vessels, matched tonnage, restricted weapons. First to disable the other's primary systems wins. No casualties required. And if I refuse? Then you proceed with your assault, Kara said. And we proceed with our defense. And everyone watching every species in this Secretariat sees the Keth Dominion break its word and attack a defended position for no reason other than pride. She let that hang in the air. You'll be strong, Admiral, but you won't be honorable, and in the long run honor matters more than strength. You taught me that. Thren's mandibles clicked slowly, thoughtfully. You are a dangerous species, Ambassador Malik. We're a clear species, Kara corrected. Danger is just what clarity looks like to people who prefer ambiguity. The duel was set for 36 hours later, enough time for both sides to prepare, for the Secretariat to establish neutral observers, and for every diplomatic mission in the sector to tune in. Because of course it was broadcast, publicly, transparently, with full commentary. Silk found Kara in the Auxiliary Command Center, watching Chen and her crew prep the Resolute for the engagement. Ambassador, I have been studying human history, the young sir said. Your species has fought thousands of wars. Tens of thousands, Kara corrected. We're very good at it. But you have also built institutions to prevent war, courts, treaties, international law. Yes. How can you do both? How can you be so good at war and so committed to peace? Kara turned to face Silk fully. Because we understand that they're not opposites. Peace isn't the absence of conflict at HFY. It's the presence of rules. We fight in courtrooms so we don't fight in streets. We compete in markets so we don't raid each other's warehouses. We hold elections so we don't have civil wars. Every human institution is a way of ritualizing conflict, making it structured, predictable, survivable. But war. War is what happens when the rituals fail, Kara said. When conflict becomes existential instead of instrumental. Our entire civilization is built on preventing that. But we never forgot how to fight. Because the best way to avoid war is to be very, very good at it. Silk's feathers ruffled. That seems paradoxical. It's human, Kara said. We're a paradoxical species. We're the only species that domesticated wolves and turned them into pets. We're the only species that took fire, the thing that terrified our ancestors, and made it into a tool. We don't avoid danger at HFY. We master it. We practice with it until it obeys us. And conflict is just another danger we've learned to master. The duel began at 1200 station time. The Resolute faced off against the Keth cruiser Honor's Edge at a distance of 100,000 kilometers, with neutral observers positioned at safe standoff ranges. The rules were clear. Disable the opponent's primary systems, drives, weapons, or shields. First to achieve 2 of 3 won. No lethal force. No collateral damage. It was war as sport, conflict as ritual. Chen commanded the Resolute with the calm precision of someone who'd trained for exactly this scenario. The Keth commander, a veteran named Krath, approached with the aggressive confidence of a species that had never lost a formal duel. The first exchange was cautious probing shots, testing shields, measuring response times. The Resolute maneuvered defensively, absorbing hits, learning patterns. They're faster than us, Chen reported. More maneuverable, but their shields are weaker. Then make them choose between speed and protection, Ryback advised from the command center. Chen grinned, copy that. The Resolute shifted tactics, using its superior shield strength to close distance, forcing the Honor's Edge into a knife fight range where maneuverability mattered less than raw durability. The Keth ship tried to disengage, but Chen had anticipated the move, positioning the Resolute to cut off the escape vector. A railgun shot punched through the Honor's Edge shield generator. One system down. Krath adapted quickly, redirecting power to weapons and drives, sacrificing defense for offense. The Honor's Edge became a glass cannon, hitting hard but vulnerable. Chen let them commit to the strategy, then sprung the trap, a spread of mindlet drones that the Resolute had deployed during the initial exchange, now activated and converging on the Keth ship's drive section. The Honor's Edge had to choose, maintain offensive pressure or evade the drones. Krath chose offense. It was the wrong choice. The mindlets disabled the cruiser's main drives, leaving it tumbling, powerless. 2 systems down. The duel was over. The Secretariat erupted in cheers, gasps, and stunned silence, depending on the species. The Keth delegation sat in rigid silence, mandibles clenched. Thren stood slowly, his carapace bearing the weight of public defeat. He walked to where Kara stood, and for a moment she thought he might attack. Instead, he extended a clawed hand. "You fought with honor," he said. "Your species is not what we believed." Kara took his hand. "Neither is yours, Admiral. You could have refused the duel. You could have attacked anyway. You chose the honorable path." "Because you gave me one," Thren said quietly. "You showed me the cost of the dishonorable path. That is, wisdom." "That's clarity," Kara corrected, "and it's the foundation of peace." Thren's mandibles spread in that unsettling smile. "Perhaps your species will teach us something after all, Ambassador." The Managed Conflict Accord was ratified 3 days later. It was a revolutionary document, a framework for managing interstellar disputes through structured, transparent, limited engagements. Crisis simulations instead of surprise attacks. Public war games instead of secret mobilizations. Sanctioned duels instead of total war. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't even complete, but it was a start. Lyof de Veth found Kara in the observation deck, watching the Keth battle group withdraw from the Bracton Gate. "You have changed the Secretariat," the Valori said quietly, "perhaps forever." "We just showed you what you already knew," Kara said. "Conflict is inevitable. The question is whether you manage it or let it manage you." "We thought you were fragile." "We're not fragile," Kara said. "We're practiced, there's a difference." Lyof de rippled with what might have been amusement. "I am revising your species classification. Conflict-competent, high-deterrence culture. Does that seem accurate?" Kara smiled. "It's a start." Silk found her later, carrying a data pad with barely contained excitement. "Ambassador, I have been asked to write a training brief on human conflict management doctrine. It will be distributed to all member states." "That's wonderful, attaché." "I wanted to ask, what should I say? How do I explain what I have learned?" Kara thought for a moment, then, "Tell them we were never afraid of conflict. We learned to make it ours. We practiced with it until it obeyed rules. We turned it into a tool instead of a threat. And that's not weakness, attaché. That's the strongest thing a species can do." Silk's feathers ruffled with understanding. "I will tell them." As the young sir left, Kara turned back to the viewport. The stars wheeled past, indifferent to the small dramas of biological species trying to build civilization in the dark. But they'd done it. They'd taken conflict, the thing that destroyed civilizations, and made it into the thing that preserved them. It wasn't peace, not yet. But it was something better, peace with teeth. The arena was a sphere of hard vacuum and harder rules. 2 ships faced each other across 50,000 kilometers of empty space. The human auxiliary frigate Defiant, and the Keth destroyer Razor's Promise. Around them, in a loose sphere at safe standoff distance, observer vessels from 24 species watched with sensors and cameras and barely concealed fascination. This wasn't war. This was something humanity had perfected over millennia, ritualized violence with referees. Colonel Thomas Ryback stood in the command center of the Bracton Gate station, watching the tactical display with the calm of a man who'd war-gamed this scenario 100 times. Beside him, Dr. Imani Akafer monitored the diplomatic channels, tracking the real-time reactions of every species watching. "Betting pools are running hot," she said with academic amusement. "The Sur are putting money on the humans, the Velori are hedging, the Keth are, interestingly, divided." "Thren's people are learning," Ryback said. "They're starting to understand that honor and victory aren't always the same thing." On the main display, Ambassador Kara Malik's face appeared, broadcasting to every ship in the arena and every diplomatic mission in the sector. "This engagement is conducted under the Managed Conflict Accord," she said, her voice carrying the weight of new law. "The objective is not destruction but demonstration, not casualties but clarity. Both sides have agreed to rules of engagement, escalation thresholds, and victory conditions. This is conflict with consent. This is war with rules." She paused and her expression hardened. "And this is what peace actually looks like." The engagement began with a formal challenge, a Keth tradition that humanity had adapted into protocol. The Razor's promise broadcast its intent, its capabilities, and its commander's honor marks. The Defiant responded in kind, adding human innovations, transparent tactical doctrine, published rules of engagement, and a clear statement of objectives. No surprises, no ambiguity, just two sides agreeing to fight within boundaries. Commander Chen piloted the Defiant with the precision of a surgeon and the aggression of a street fighter. The Keth commander, a young officer named Vek, chosen specifically to represent the next generation of Keth military doctrine, matched her move for move. They danced through the vacuum, trading shots that were calculated to disable rather than destroy. Railgun rounds targeted drive sections. Missiles locked onto shield generators. Point defense systems intercepted incoming fire with mathematical precision. It was beautiful, it was brutal, it was utterly controlled. "First threshold reached," Ryback announced. "Shields at 40% on both vessels. Escalation to secondary weapons authorized." The Defiant deployed drone swarms, small, semi-autonomous units that harassed the Razor's promise from multiple vectors. The Keth destroyer responded with close-range plasma bursts, incinerating drones by the dozen. But for every drone destroyed, two more took its place. The Defiant was teaching an old lesson: quantity has a quality all its own. "They're adapting," Imani observed, watching the Keth tactical pattern shift. "Vek is learning in real time." "Good," Kara said. "That's the point. This isn't about winning, it's about teaching." Aboard the Razor's promise, Commander Vek felt the weight of his species' honor pressing down like atmospheric pressure. The humans were good, better than the intelligence reports had suggested. Their tactics were unorthodox, their technology surprisingly effective, their willingness to absorb damage while inflicting it unsettling. The Keth fought to win, the humans fought to teach. "Shields at 35%, his tactical officer reported. "Drone swarms are degrading our point defense efficiency." Vek's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Redirect power to weapons. We end this now." "Commander, that violates the escalation threshold." "I am aware," Vek snapped, "but honor demands." "Honor demands we follow the rules we agreed to," a new voice said. Admiral Thren God appeared on the command display, his scarred carapace filling the screen. "Commander Vek, you will maintain current escalation levels. That is an order." "But Admiral, we are losing." "We are learning," Thren corrected. "There is no shame in losing a duel. There is great shame in breaking your word. The humans understand this. It is time we did as well." Vek's mandibles clenched, but he obeyed. "Yes, Admiral." Thren's expression softened slightly. "Fight well, Commander, but fight honorably. That is the Keth way." The duel lasted another 40 minutes. The Defiant and Razor's promise traded blows with increasing precision, each side learning the other's patterns, adapting, evolving. It was conflict as conversation, a dialogue conducted in railgun rounds and missile locks. Finally, inevitably, the Defiant achieved the victory condition. 2 of 3 primary systems disabled on the Keth destroyer, drives offline, shields collapsed, weapons still functional but unable to target effectively. Commander Chen could have pressed the advantage, could have disabled the weapons too, humiliated the Keth completely. Instead, she broadcast on open channels, engagement complete, Razor's promise you fought with honor, stand down and accept recovery assistance. There was a long pause, then Vex's voice tight with controlled emotion, acknowledged Defiant we accept. The arena erupted in chatter, species delegates arguing, analyzing, processing what they just witnessed. But Kara was watching the Keth delegation, where Thren stood with his officers, his mandibles spread in what she'd learned to recognize as pride. Not pride in victory, pride in honorable defeat. They're learning, Imani said softly. We all are, Kara replied. The formal ratification of the Managed Conflict Accord took place in the Security Council chamber, now reconfigured to accommodate the largest gathering of species representatives in Secretariat history. Kara stood at the center, flanked by Ryback and Imani, facing the assembled delegates. Thren stood opposite, representing the Keth Dominion. Between them, Lyof de Veth floated in their mobility sphere, tentacles gesturing with what might have been cautious optimism. The Accord establishes 3 principles, Kara began, her voice carrying through the chamber. First, conflict is inevitable, species will have disputes, resources will be contested, honor will be challenged. Pretending otherwise doesn't prevent conflict, it just makes it unpredictable. She paused, letting that sink in. Second, conflict can be managed. Through clear rules, transparent escalation, and agreed-upon victory conditions, we can turn potentially catastrophic confrontations into survivable contests. We can fight without destroying. We can compete without annihilating. Another pause. Third, managed conflict prevents unmanaged war. By providing structured outlets for aggression, competition, and honor-seeking, we reduce the pressure that leads to existential conflicts. We turn the steam valve before the boiler explodes. Thren stepped forward. The Keth Dominion endorses this accord. We have learned that true strength lies not in the willingness to fight, but in the wisdom to fight well. The humans have taught us this. It is a lesson we will not forget. A Sir Delegate rose, feathers ruffled with anxiety. But this accord legitimizes violence. It makes war acceptable. It makes war survivable, Imani corrected. There's a difference. Humans have fought tens of thousands of wars. We've also built institutions that prevent most conflicts from becoming wars. Courts instead of duels, markets instead of raids, elections instead of coups. This accord extends that principle to interstellar relations. But what if someone refuses to follow the rules? A Velori delegate asked. Then they face the consequences, Ryback said bluntly. The accord includes enforcement mechanisms. Species that violate the rules face sanctions, isolation, and if necessary, collective defense actions. The rules only work if everyone knows they'll be enforced. And who enforces them? The Velori pressed. We all do, Kara said. That's the point. This isn't humanity imposing our will. This is the Secretariat choosing to manage conflict instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Sethais, the council chair, rippled with what might have been resignation or relief. The council will vote, all in favor of ratifying the Managed Conflict Accord. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. The accord passed. The celebration was muted. Species that had spent centuries avoiding conflict didn't suddenly become comfortable with it. But there was a palpable sense of relief, as if a pressure valve had finally been opened. Kara found silk in the observation deck. the young sir staring out at the stars with an expression of avian contemplation. Attaché, you've been quiet. As Silk's feathers ruffled, I have been thinking, Ambassador, about fear. What about it? The sir are taught that fear is weakness, that harmony requires the absence of fear, but watching the humans, you are afraid. I have seen it, yet you act anyway. Kara smiled. Fear isn't weakness, S. Silk. Fear is information. It tells you what matters, what's dangerous, what requires caution. The weakness is letting fear control you instead of informing you. But how do you do that? How do you feel fear and still act? Practice, Kara said simply. We practice with fear until it becomes familiar. We train in scenarios that scare us until the fear becomes manageable. We don't eliminate fear, we domesticate it, just like we domesticated conflict. S. Silk was quiet for a long moment. Then, I think I understand now. You are not fearless, you are fear-literate. That's a good way to put it, Kara said. I'm stealing that for my report. S. Silk's feathers fluffed with what might have been pride. I have completed my training brief. Would you like to see it? I'd be honored. The young sir pulled up the document on a tablet. The final line read, Humanity was never afraid of conflict. They learned to make it theirs. They practiced with it until it obeyed rules. They turned it into a tool instead of a threat. This is not weakness. This is the strongest thing a species can do, and it is a lesson we must all learn if we are to survive among the stars. Kara felt something tight in her chest loosen. That's perfect, Attaché. Thank you, Ambassador. S. Silk hesitated. May I ask, what will you do now? Now, Kara looked out at the stars, at the ships moving through the gate, at the fragile peace they'd built from clarity and credible threats. Now we teach. We train. We help other species learn what we've learned, because the Accord is just the beginning. The real work is making it stick. And if it doesn't, then we adapt, Kara said. That's what humans do. We don't avoid problems. We solve them. And if the solution doesn't work, we try something else. We're very persistent that way. 3 months later, the first managed conflict training center opened on a neutral station in the Sur Commonwealth. Species from across the Secretariat sent officers, diplomats, and strategists to learn human conflict doctrine. Ryback ran the tactical simulations, teaching aliens how to wargame scenarios, how to red team their own defenses, how to think like an adversary to prevent becoming a victim. Imani taught conflict theory, walking species through the categories of conflict expressive, instrumental, existential, and how to prevent escalation between them. Kara taught negotiation, demonstrating how to use clarity as leverage, how to make credible threats without making stupid ones, how to build off-ramps into every confrontation. And S. Silk, the young sir who'd started as a bewildered observer, became one of their best students and eventually an instructor, teaching other species what the timid humans had taught them. The Keth sent officers too. Thren himself attended the first session, sitting in the back of the classroom like a scarred monument to old ways, learning new tricks. After one of Kara's lectures on deterrence theory, he approached her. Ambassador, I have a question. Admiral, your species has fought so many wars, lost so many lives. Why do you still believe peace is possible? Kara considered the question carefully. Because we've learned that peace isn't the absence of conflict, Admiral. It's the presence of rules. We've fought enough wars to know we don't want more, but we've also fought enough wars to know how to prevent them. That's the paradox of humanity. We're good at war because we're committed to peace. Thren's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. That is wise. That's human, Kara corrected. We're a paradoxical species. We domesticated wolves. We harnessed fire. We turned conflict into civilization. It's what we do. And now you teach others to do the same. We try, Kara said. Whether they learn is up to them. Thren was quiet for a moment. Then, The Keth are learning, Ambassador, slowly, but we are learning. That's all anyone can ask, Admiral. 5 years later, the Managed Conflict Accord had been adopted by 80% of Secretariat member species. Conflicts that would have escalated into wars were resolved through structured duels, transparent negotiations, and clear escalation ladders. It wasn't perfect. There were violations, disputes, and species that refused to participate. But the trend was clear. Conflict was being domesticated, one species at a time. Kara stood in the observation deck of the Bracton Gate Station, now a hub of interstellar commerce, and a symbol of managed conflict. Watching ships from 100 species transit through the gate in orderly queues. Lyofdeveth found her there, their mobility sphere humming softly. Ambassador, I wanted to thank you. For what, Registrar? For teaching us that we were wrong, about humanity, about conflict, about peace. Kara smiled. You weren't wrong, Registrar, you just had incomplete information. We all did. Still, Lyofda said, you changed the Secretariat, perhaps you saved it. We just showed you what you already knew, Kara said. That conflict is inevitable. That fear is information. That peace is something you build, not something you wish for. And that humanity is not conflict-averse. No, Kara agreed. We're conflict-competent, there's a difference. Lyofda rippled with what might have been amusement. Your species classification has been updated. Conflict-competent, high-deterrence culture, recommended for strategic consultation. That's quite an upgrade from handle with care. You earned it, Ambassador. As Lyofda floated away, Kara turned back to the viewport. Somewhere out there, human ships were patrolling trade routes. Human instructors were teaching conflict management. Human diplomats were negotiating treaties with clarity and credible threats. They'd done it. They'd taken humanity's greatest weakness, their history of violence, and turned it into their greatest strength. They'd shown the galaxy that conflict wasn't the opposite of civilization. It was the engine of civilization. You just had to keep your hands on the wheel. Silk found her an hour later, carrying a data pad with barely contained excitement. Ambassador, I have news. The Harmonious Collective has requested human advisors. They want to learn conflict management. Kara raised an eyebrow. The species that evolved past violence wants to learn how to fight. They want to learn how to manage conflict, Silk corrected. They have realized that avoiding conflict doesn't prevent it. It just makes them vulnerable to species that don't avoid it. That's actually profound. They learned it from watching humans, Silk said. From watching you. Kara felt that tightness in her chest again, pride mixed with responsibility. Tell them we'll send a team. I already did, Silk said, feathers fluffing with satisfaction. I am leading it. Attaché. I am no longer an attaché, Silk said. I have been promoted, Senior Conflict Management Specialist, first sir to hold the position. Kara laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. Congratulations, Specialist, you've earned it. I learned from the best, Silk said. Then more quietly, thank you, Ambassador, for teaching me that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it. You taught yourself that, Kara said. I just showed you it was possible. As Silk left, Kara turned back to the stars one last time. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of species learning to navigate the space between peace and war. But they were learning, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. And that was enough. 10 years after Earth's admission to the Galactic Secretariat, Ambassador Kara Malik stood before the Security Council one last time. I'm retiring, she announced. Returning to Earth, someone else can carry the torch. Seth's eyes rippled with what might have been regret. You have done more for this Secretariat than any ambassador in its history. I showed you what you already knew, Kara said. That conflict is inevitable. That peace is a choice. That civilization isn't built on the absence of violence, it's built on the management of it. And what will you do now? Thren asked. The Keth Admiral had become an unlikely friend over the years, his respect for humanity deepening with every managed crisis. I'm going to teach, Kara said, at the new Conflict Management Academy on Earth. We're training the next generation of human diplomats, teaching them what we've learned, making sure the knowledge doesn't die with us. The galaxy will miss you, Ambassador, Lyofta said. The galaxy will be fine, Kara said. You've learned the lesson, now you just have to keep practicing. As she left the chamber for the last time, Ryback and Imani fell into step beside her. Think they'll remember? Ryback asked. Some will, Imani said. Some won't. That's how knowledge works. You teach it, hope it sticks, and trust the next generation to carry it forward. Very philosophical, Doctor, Ryback said. I'm just glad we didn't have to actually fight a war. We fought dozens of wars, Kara corrected. We just made sure they were small, structured, and survivable. That's the whole point. They walked in comfortable silence through the station corridors, past species from 100 worlds, all of them navigating the complex dance of interstellar civilization. You know what the best part is, Ryback said eventually. What? They still think we're special. That humanity has some unique gift for managing conflict. Kara smiled. We do, we practiced. For 10,000 years we practiced. We fought wars, built institutions, made mistakes, and learned from them. That's not a gift, that's work. And now we're teaching others to do the same work, Imani said. That's civilization, Kara said. Passing on what you've learned, making sure the next generation doesn't have to learn it the hard way. They reached the docking bay where the Earth transport waited. As they boarded, Kara took one last look at the Secretariat station, the massive ring of diplomatic real estate where 1,000 species pretended civilization meant the absence of conflict. They were wrong, but they were learning. And that was enough. 20 years later, a young human diplomat named Marcus Chen stood before the Galactic Secretariat Security Council, presenting his credentials. Ambassador Chen, Sethai said, the Velori was older now, their skin less vibrant, but their voice still carried authority. Your file indicates you studied under Ambassador Malik at the Conflict Management Academy. I did, Marcus said. She taught me that conflict isn't the opposite of peace. It's the engine of peace. You just have to keep your hands on the wheel. Thren, now retired but still attending council sessions as an observer, clicked his mandibles in approval. Another human who understands. Good. The galaxy needs more of you. With respect, Admiral, Marcus said, the galaxy doesn't need more humans. It needs more species who understand what humans learned. That conflict is inevitable. That fear is information. That peace is something you build, not something you wish for. Silk, now a senior council member, ruffled their feathers with satisfaction. Well said, Ambassador. Welcome to the Secretariat. As the session ended, Marcus stood in the observation deck, watching the stars wheel past. Somewhere out there, humanity's legacy was spreading, not through conquest or colonization, but through teaching. They'd shown the galaxy that conflict could be domesticated, that violence could be ritualized, that war could be managed. They'd shown the galaxy that humans weren't afraid of conflict. They just learned to make it theirs. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more journeys. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for the next adventure.